The waves crashed against the pristine shore of the Hamptons beach as Marcus Reynolds stepped out of his beachfront mansion. At 52, he had everything money could buy: a successful investment firm, houses around the world, and a new, trophy wife half his age. His salt and pepper hair caught the morning breeze as he adjusted his designer sunglasses, ready for another day of leisure. "Darling, the masseuse will be here at 11, called out Victoria, his wife of 6 months, from the deck. She was 28, blonde, and exactly the kind of arm candy his social circle expected him to have. Marcus waved absently, his mind already on his morning walk along the private beach. The last 15 years had been good to Marcus. After his divorce from Christine, his first wife, he had thrown himself into his work. The investment firm he started had grown into a billion-dollar empire. He had carefully crafted his image as one of New York's most eligible bachelors before finally settling down with Victoria. His life was perfect, or so he thought. Marcus walked along the shoreline, nodding to the few other wealthy residents who had access to this exclusive stretch of beach. He was about to turn back when he saw them, a sight that made his blood run cold. There, building a sandcastle with a young teenage girl, was Christine, his ex-wife, the woman he hadn't seen in 15 years. But it wasn't Christine that made him stop dead in his tracks. It was the girl beside her. The girl looked about 14 or 15. She had his mother's high cheekbones, his sister's curly hair, and most strikingly, his own deep-set brown eyes. She laughed at something Christine said, and Marcus felt his world tilt on its axis. The girl's smile was his smile. Marcus stood frozen, his feet sinking into the sand. Christine hadn't noticed him yet, but as he stared, she finally looked up. Their eyes met across the beach, and he saw the flash of recognition in her face, followed by something else: fear. Christine quickly stood up, brushing sand from her sundress. She looked different from how he remembered her. Her dark skin glowed in the morning sun, and her hair was styled in elegant braids rather than the corporate look she used to wear. She had aged beautifully, but Marcus barely noticed. His eyes were fixed on the girl. "Mom, what's wrong?" the girl asked, looking up at Christine's sudden movement. The word "mom" hit Marcus like a physical blow. His mind raced back 15 years, to the bitter arguments, the harsh words exchanged, the papers he'd had his lawyers draw up. Christine had tried to tell him something important that last day, but he'd been too angry to listen, too caught up in his wounded pride after discovering she'd been planning to start her own company, something he'd seen as a betrayal of their shared dream of building his firm together. "Olivia, honey, pack up your things," Christine said calmly, but Marcus could hear the tension in her voice, the same tension he used to hear during their final days together. Olivia, the girl had a name, and she was exactly the right age to be. "Christine," Marcus called out, finding his voice at last. He took a step forward, but Christine moved protectively in front of the girl. "Olivia." "Not now, Marcus," Christine said firmly. "Not here." "Do you know him, Mum?" Olivia asked, looking between them with curious eyes. His eyes. Before Christine could answer, Victoria's voice carried across the beach. "Marcus, darling, the masseuse is here early." Marcus turned instinctively toward the sound, and when he looked back, Christine was already hurrying Olivia away, their beach bags hastily gathered. He watched them climb the public access stairs to the parking lot, his mind spinning with questions. Back at the mansion, Victoria was waiting with the masseuse, but Marcus barely heard her complaints about his absence. He locked himself in his home office, his hands shaking as he picked up his phone. "Jerry," he barked at his private investigator, "I need you to find everything you can about Christine Walker's daughter. Her name is Olivia. She's around 14 or 15. As he hung up, Marcus sank into his leather chair. The girl's face floated in his mind, those familiar eyes, that smile he saw in the mirror every day. How had he not known? Why hadn't Christine told him? But even as he asked himself these questions, he remembered that the last day Christine trying to talk to him, and him dismissing her, telling her to have her lawyers talk to his lawyers. "Marcus," Victoria knocked on the door. "The board meeting call is in 10 minutes. Are you ready?" The board meeting. His company. His empire. All of it suddenly felt hollow as the image of that young girl building a sandcastle played over and over in his mind. "I'll be right there," he called back, but he remained seated staring at the photo on his desk, a picture of him accepting his Businessman of the Year award last spring. He had everything money could buy, but for the first time in 15 years, he wondered about the price he'd paid for it. His phone buzzed with a text from Jerry. "Found her. Olivia Marie Walker, born September 15th, 15 years ago. Mother, Christine Walker. Father's name left blank on birth certificate. September 15th. Marcus felt his chest tighten. That was exactly 8 months after their last night together, before everything fell apart. Before he'd let his pride and anger drive away the only woman he'd ever truly loved. Another knock on the door. "Marcus, the board is waiting." He stood, up, straightening his jacket automatically. He had built his life around being in control, around power and success. But now, watching his perfectly ordered world begin to crack, Marcus Reynolds realized he had never felt more powerless. As he walked to his home office's conference room, his mind was already forming plans. He needed answers. He needed to know his daughter. And somewhere in a part of his heart he thought he'd locked away 15 years ago, he needed to make things right with Christine. The morning sun continued to shine on the Hampton beach, indifferent to the lives it had just turned upside down. In her car, Christine gripped the steering wheel tightly, glancing at Olivia in the rearview mirror. Her daughter, their daughter, was texting her friends, unaware that her world was about to change forever. "Mom," Olivia said suddenly, looking up from her phone. "That man on the beach, and he looked at me funny. Do you know him?" Christine took a deep breath, 15 years of carefully guarded secrets weighing heavily on her shoulders. "Yes, honey. I used to know him. A long time ago." "He looked kind of familiar," Olivia mused, then went back to her phone. Christine felt tears threatening to fall. She had always known this day might come, had prepared for it. But now that it was here, she felt completely unprepared. As she drove away from the Hamptons, she couldn't shake the image of Marcus's face when he'd seen Olivia. The shock, the recognition, the dawning understanding. Her phone began to ring. The screen showed a number she hadn't seen in 15 years, but had never forgotten. Marcus's private line. Christine let it go to voicemail, but she knew this was only the beginning. The careful life she had built for herself and Olivia was about to change, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Back in New York City, Christine paced her corner office, trying to focus on work. Her marketing firm had grown into one of the most successful agencies in the city. But today she couldn't concentrate on the pile of contracts on her desk. Her phone had 17 missed calls from Marcus. "Ms. Walker, your daughter's school is on line 1, her assistant called through the intercom. Christine grabbed the phone. "Hello? Is everything okay with Olivia? Mrs. Walker, this is Principal Bennett. Olivia had a bit of an incident in the cafeteria today. A man tried to approach her during lunch hour. Security escorted him out, but we need you to come down right away." Christine's heart stopped. What did he look like? Tall, gray hair, expensive suit. He said he was her father. Of course. Marcus never could wait once he set his mind to something. Christine grabbed her purse, her hands shaking. "I'll be there in 15 minutes. At Westbrook Academy, Christine found Olivia sitting in the principal's office, looking confused and upset. 2 security guards stood nearby, and Principal Bennett wore a concerned expression. "Mum, why did that man from the beach say he's my father?" Olivia demanded as soon as she saw Christine. "He tried to give me this letter, but security took it away." Christine sank into the chair next to her daughter. The moment she'd dreaded for 15 years had arrived, and it was even messier than she'd imagined. "Mrs. Walker," Principal Bennett said, "given the situation, we need to update our records about who is authorized to contact Olivia." "That won't be necessary," a familiar voice said from the doorway. Marcus stood. There, his lawyer Jerry Thompson beside him. "I've already filed for an emergency hearing regarding parental rights." Christine felt her blood boil. "You had no right to come to her school." "I had every right. She's my daughter." Marcus's voice cracked on the last word. Olivia looked between them, her eyes wide. "Mom, what's going on?" Before Christine could answer, Victoria burst into the office, her face flushed with anger. "Marcus, what is this? Your secretary said you cancelled all your meetings to come to some school." The room fell silent. Victoria stared at Olivia, then at Christine, then back at Marcus. Understanding dawned on her face. "So this is why you've been acting strange since the beach," Victoria said coldly. "Another secret from your past coming back to haunt us?" "Victoria, not now," Marcus warned. "Mom," Olivia said quietly, "is he really my father?" Christine looked at her daughter, their daughter, and saw all the questions in those familiar brown eyes. She thought about all the times Olivia had asked about her dad, all the vague answers she'd given. She thought about the college fund she'd secretly started, determined to give Olivia everything without Marcus's money. She thought about the nights she'd cried herself to sleep 15 years ago, reading and rereading the divorce papers where Marcus had coldly stated he wanted a clean break, no ties, no complications. "Yes," Christine finally said. "Marcus Reynolds is your father." Victoria laughed bitterly. "Well, isn't this perfect? First I find out about the merger you're planning behind the board's back, and now I discover you have a secret black daughter. Wait until page 6 hears about this. You say one word to the press," Marcus growled, "and those prenup terms you love so much will look very different." Principal Bennett cleared her throat. "I think we should continue this discussion somewhere more private. Olivia, would you like to wait in the counselor's office?" "No," Olivia said firmly, standing up. She looked so much like Marcus when she set her jaw like that. "I want to hear everything. I deserve to know the truth." Christine reached for her daughter's hand, but Olivia pulled away. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because he didn't want us," Christine said quietly. "He made that very clear." "That's not true," Marcus protested. "You never told me about her." "I tried. That last day I tried to tell you I was pregnant, but you were too busy having security escort me out of the building." Victoria's phone chimed. She looked at it and smiled coldly. "Well, this has been fascinating, but I have a lunch date with Michael Chen from your board of directors, Marcus. I'm sure he'll find this situation very interesting." Marcus grabbed Victoria's arm. "Don't you dare try to use this to manipulate me." "Let go of her," Olivia suddenly shouted. Everyone turned to look at her. She was trembling. "Just stop it, all of you. I don't want to be part of this." She ran from the office. Christine started to follow, but Marcus moved first. "Let me talk to her," he pleaded. "Please, Christine, I've missed 15 years. Give me a chance to make it right." Christine saw something in his eyes she hadn't seen in years. Genuine emotion, not the cold calculation she'd grown used to. But before she could respond, Jerry the lawyer stepped forward. "I've filed the paperwork for a DNA test and emergency custody hearing," he said. "We'll let the courts sort this out." "The courts?" Christine laughed bitterly. "You really haven't changed, have you, Marcus? Still trying to solve everything with money and lawyers." "What choice did you give me?" Marcus shot back. "You hid my daughter from me for 15 years. I didn't hide her. You threw us away. You were so angry about me wanting my own career that you didn't even let me explain." Victoria watched this exchange with growing anger. "I can't believe this. I thought I married a powerful man, not someone who lets his ex-wife and teenage daughter ruin everything we've built." She stormed out, her heels clicking on the polished school floors. Marcus didn't even look at her. "Principal," Bennett spoke up again. "Mr. Reynolds, Mrs. Walker, I must insist you continue this discussion elsewhere. Olivia's well-being is our primary concern." Christine gathered her things, her mind racing. She needed to find Olivia, to explain everything. But how could she explain something she still didn't fully understand herself? How could she tell her daughter about the love she'd once shared with Marcus, about the bitterness that had poisoned it, about the choice she'd made to raise her child? Alone rather than fight a battle she wasn't sure she could win. As she walked out of the office, Marcus called after her. "Christine, wait, please, we need to talk about this." She turned to face him. 15 years ago, you didn't want to talk. You wanted to win. What's changed?" "I have," he said softly. "Seeing her on that beach, now seeing you, I can't just walk away this time." Christine felt tears threatening again. "Find Olivia," she said. "Make sure she's okay. Then we'll talk." "But Marcus, if you hurt her like you hurt me," There won't be enough money in the world to fix it. She walked away, leaving Marcus standing in the school hallway, surrounded by the wreckage of his carefully constructed life. Through a window, he could see Olivia sitting alone on a bench in the school courtyard, her head in her hands. For the first time in 15 years, Marcus Reynolds, the man who always knew exactly what to do, had no idea how to fix this situation. But as he watched his daughter, the daughter he'd never known he had, he knew he had to try. Victoria stormed into Michael Chen's office at the Reynolds Investment Building, not bothering to wait for his secretary's announcement. The board member looked up from his computer, surprised by her dramatic entrance. "Cancel our lunch plans," Victoria said, dropping into the chair across from him. "I have something much more interesting to discuss." Michael leaned forward. What could be more interesting than discussing the merger Marcus is trying to hide from the board? How about his secret black daughter with his ex-wife? Michael's eyes widened. "Christine Walker's daughter, are you sure?" "I just came from her fancy private school. The girl is 15 years old and looks exactly like him. Marcus is already filing for custody rights." Meanwhile, in the school courtyard, Marcus approached Olivia carefully, as if she were a scared animal that might bolt at any sudden movement. She didn't look up when he sat down on the other end of the bench. "I used to hate Father's Day," Olivia said suddenly, still staring at the ground. "All the other kids would make cards and gifts, and I'd have to explain that I didn't have a dad. Mom would always say that some families are different, and that we were perfect just the way we were." Marcus felt each word like a knife to his heart. "Olivia, I didn't know about you. If I had, would it have made a difference?" She finally looked at him, and he saw tears in her eyes. "That woman, your wife, she looked at me like I was garbage. Is that how you see me too? Some embarrassing secret from your past?" "No." Marcus moved closer, fighting the urge to reach out and hug her. "You're my daughter. Nothing else matters." "Everything else matters." Olivia stood up, her voice rising. "Your wife hates me. Mom is upset. Everyone's fighting. And I'm supposed to just accept that you're my father because you say so. Where were you all these years?" Before Marcus could answer, Christine appeared at the courtyard entrance. "Olivia, baby, let's go home. I want to know everything." "Olivia," demanded, looking between her parents. "The whole truth, no more secrets." Christine sighed. "Okay, but not here. Let's go to my office." "I'm coming too," Marcus said firmly. 20 minutes later, they sat in Christine's corner office at Walker Marketing. Olivia looked around at the awards on the walls, the view of Manhattan through the windows, all the symbols of her mother's success. "Is this why you broke up?" she asked. "Because Mom wanted her own business?" Christine and Marcus exchanged looks. 15 years of hurt and misunderstanding hung between them. "I thought your mother was going to steal my clients," Marcus admitted. "We were building the investment firm together, and when I found out she was planning to start her own company, you didn't trust me," Christine finished. "You never even asked why I wanted my own agency. You just assumed I was betraying you. Why did you want your own company, Mum?" Christine's eyes filled with tears. "Because I was pregnant with you. I knew Marcus was focused on building his empire. The hours he worked, the pressure he put on himself. I wanted something that would let me be there for my child, a business I could run on my own terms." Marcus stared at her. "That's why you were meeting with those marketing contacts?" "Yes." "You idiot!" Christine wiped her eyes angrily. "But you wouldn't listen. You were so convinced I was plotting against you that you served me with divorce papers before I could even tell you about the baby." "You could have told me after," Marcus said quietly. "When?" "When your lawyers were threatening to destroy my reputation if I didn't sign quickly. When you were telling everyone I had tried to sabotage your company. When you changed your phone numbers and told security never to let me in the building." Olivia listened to this exchange with growing understanding. "So you both let pride and hurt feelings keep you apart, and I grew up without a father because of it." Her words hung in the air, heavy with truth. Marcus and Christine fell silent, the weight of their past mistakes pressing down on them. The office door burst open. Jerry, Marcus's lawyer, rushed in, said with a worried expression, "Marcus, we have a problem. Victoria just called an emergency board meeting. She's telling everyone about Olivia, trying to paint it as proof that you're hiding things from the board." She's using it to support Michael Chen's accusations about the secret merger. Marcus jumped up. She's trying to force me out of my own company. The board members are concerned about a pattern of deception, Jerry said carefully. First, the merger, now a secret daughter. Michael Chen is suggesting a vote of no confidence. Christine watched Marcus's face change, saw the business mask slip back into place. She'd seen that transformation many times during their marriage. The moment when Marcus Reynolds, the man, became Marcus Reynolds, the CEO. Dad? Olivia's small voice cut through the tension. It was the first time she'd called him that. Marcus turned to her, torn between his daughter and his empire. Christine saw the struggle in his eyes and felt a familiar disappointment settling in her chest. Go, she said quietly. Go save your company. That's what you do best. No. Olivia stood up. If you walk out that door to deal with business instead of staying here to deal with family, don't bother coming back. I've lived 15 years without a father. I can live the rest of my life the same way. Marcus looked at his daughter. Really. Looked at her. He saw Christine's strength in her stance, his own determination in her jaw, and something entirely her own in her eyes, wisdom beyond her years. He took out his phone and dialed. Jerry, tell the board I'll be there in 2 hours, not a minute sooner. My daughter is more important than any company. He sat back down. I'm here, Olivia. Ask me anything you want to know. Christine felt tears rolling down her cheeks, but this time they weren't tears of sadness. For the first time in 15 years, she saw glimpses of the Marcus she had fallen in love with, the man who had gotten lost somewhere between ambition and success. Outside the office windows, the sun began to set over Manhattan, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. In Christine's office, 3 people who should have been a family 15 years ago began the slow, careful work of becoming one now. Jerry quietly left, closing the door behind him. He took out his phone to call Victoria, then stopped. Some things were more important than business. Some things were more important than money. Looking back through the office window, he saw Marcus tentatively reach for Olivia's hand, saw her, let him take it, saw Christine's small smile. Maybe, just maybe, old wounds could finally begin to heal. Victoria sat at the head of the conference table in the Reynolds investment boardroom, a satisfied smile playing on her lips. Around her, board members muttered among themselves, their faces showing various degrees of concern and disapproval. So you see, she concluded, Marcus has been hiding things from all of you, not just the merger plans, but a whole secret family. How can we trust him to lead this company? Michael Chen nodded gravely. This pattern of deception is deeply troubling. Perhaps it's time for new leadership. Before anyone could respond, the boardroom doors flew open. Marcus strode in, his face set in hard lines. Behind him came Jerry, carrying a thick folder. I see my wife has been busy, Marcus said coldly. Tell me, Victoria, did you mention to the board how you've been secretly selling company shares to Michael's holding company? Victoria's smile faltered. Michael Chen shifted uncomfortably in his seat. That's right, Marcus continued, as Jerry distributed documents to each board member. While you've all been listening to Victoria's stories about my personal life, she's been helping orchestrate a hostile takeover. Across town, Christine sat in her living room watching Olivia do her homework. The events of the day felt surreal, like a dream she might wake up from at any moment. Mom? Olivia looked up from her textbook. What was Dad like? Before everything happened? Christine smiled softly. He was passionate, brilliant. When he believed in something, he gave it everything he had. That's what made me fall in love with him. It's also what tore us apart. Do you think he really wants to be part of my life? Or is this just about control for him? Before Christine could answer, there was a knock at the door. When she opened it, she found an elegant older woman standing there, her silver hair perfectly styled. Eleanor Reynolds, the woman said. Marcus's mother. I believe you and I need to talk about my granddaughter. Christine felt her heart skip a beat. Eleanor Reynolds was a legend in New York society, known for her charity work and iron will. During Christine's marriage to Marcus, Eleanor had always been politely distant, never quite accepting her son's choice of a wife. Grandma, Olivia appeared. Behind Christine, curious, Eleanor's face softened as she looked at Olivia. "Oh my," she whispered, "you look just like Marcus did at your age." Back in the Reynolds investment boardroom, the atmosphere had shifted dramatically. Victoria sat rigid in her chair as the board members reviewed the documents Jerry had provided. "These transfer records," one board member said. "They show systematic stock purchases by Chen Holdings over the past 6 months, all traced back to insider information from—" "Mrs. Reynolds?" Victoria stood up abruptly. "This is ridiculous. Marcus is trying to distract you from his own deceptions. What about his secret daughter? What about the merger he's been planning?" "The merger," Marcus said calmly, "was with Walker Marketing, Christine's company. I wanted to bring her expertise in-house to expand our digital presence. Everything is detailed in the proposal I plan to present next week." "You're merging with your ex-wife's company?" Michael Chen asked incredulously. "No," Marcus replied. "I was going to, but now I have more important things to focus on. My daughter needs me more than this company needs another merger." Victoria laughed bitterly. "So that's it? You're choosing your little secret family over everything we built?" "Choosing to fix the biggest mistake of my life," Marcus said. "Jerry, please show the board the evidence of Mrs. Reynolds' insider trading. He'll be stepping down as CEO temporarily while I handle some personal matters." "Marcus," Victoria grabbed his arm as he turned to leave. "Don't do this. We can work something out." He gently removed her hand. "It's already done. By the way, you might want to call your lawyer. The SEC will have questions about those stock transfers." Meanwhile, in Christine's living room, Eleanor Reynolds sat gracefully on the sofa, studying her newly discovered granddaughter with keen eyes. "I always wondered," Eleanor said softly. "When Marcus came home that day, 15 years ago, so angry and hurt, I knew there had to be more to the story." "Did you know about me?" Olivia asked directly. "No, dear. But I knew your father was making a terrible mistake letting your mother go. Marcus has always been his own worst enemy when it comes to matters of the heart." Christine brought in a tray of tea, her hands shaking slightly. "Mrs. Reynolds—" "Eleanor, please, we're family, whether Marcus and you figure things out or not." She turned to Olivia. "Tell me, dear, what are your interests? What do you want to do with your life?" As Olivia began to talk about her love of art and her dreams of becoming an architect, Christine watched Eleanor's face. The older woman was completely engaged, asking questions, showing genuine interest. This wasn't the cold society matriarch Christine remembered. "You know," Eleanor said during a pause in the conversation, "your grandfather was an architect. He designed half the buildings in the financial district, including the Reynolds investment building." Olivia's eyes lit up. "Really? Dad never mentioned that. There's a lot your father never mentions, particularly about his own heart." Eleanor set down her teacup. "Christine, I owe you an apology. 15 years ago, I should have seen what was happening. I should have made Marcus listen." "It wasn't your fault," Christine said quietly. "We were both too stubborn, too proud. Well, now we have a chance to make things right." Eleanor reached for her purse and pulled out an old photograph. It showed a teenage Marcus standing proudly next to an architectural model. "This was your father's first attempt at following in his father's footsteps before he chose business instead." Olivia took the photo, studying it intently. "He looks happy. He was just like you look happy when you talk about architecture." Eleanor smiled. "Sometimes the best parts of ourselves skip a generation." The sound of a car pulling up outside made them all look toward the window. Marcus was walking up the path to the house, his tie loosened, looking tired but determined. "Right on time," Eleanor said, standing up. "I called him after I left the boardroom, told him if he didn't come make things right with his family, I'd write him out of my will." Christine couldn't help but laugh. "You didn't?" "Of course I did. Sometimes even successful men need their mothers to point them in the right direction." Eleanor winked at Olivia, especially when there's something far more precious than money at stake. The doorbell rang and for a moment no one moved. Then Olivia stood up and walked to the door. When she opened it, Marcus stood there looking uncertain for the first time in years. "Dad," Olivia said simply. "Grandma's here. She's been showing how many pictures of when you wanted to be an architect." Marcus looked past her to see his mother sitting regally on the sofa, next to Christine. The sight of the three most important women in his life, together in one room, made his throat tight. "Come in, Marcus," Eleanor called out. "It's time to stop running from your heart." He stepped inside, closing the door behind him on the world of business deals and corporate power plays. In this modest living room surrounded by family, Marcus Reynolds began to remember who he was before he became who he thought he needed to be.